So before we get into the birth of the Buddha, I want to take a few moments to, and I won't go into it, but I think many of you who come regularly know, there is this order called the Order of Interbeing, or in Vietnamese, Tiep Yen, that was founded by Thich Nhat Hanh in the 60s in Vietnam. And as he became such a world teacher, the order has grown, so it's worldwide, and has its own charter, has its own precepts, so to speak, trainings. And we have a very active community. It's our core community here at the Florida Community Mindfulness. And for people who want to enter the community, they go through a period of 1 or 2 years of aspirancy or training. And so we have some new aspirants who will be in the next cohort of going through their trainings. I just want to introduce them and just give them a chance to say anything they want publicly to the Sangha. The first is Brent. Can you stand, Brent? Do we have a microphone for Brent? And again, not asking Brent to give a speech, just very short, just in front of your Sangha, what do you want to say?
Hi, I'm Brent. Mainly I'm joining the OI because I want to serve this community. This community makes changes in the world and people's lives, and I think the best way to do that is to further my relationship and support of this community. So I also ask the community to support me in my OI aspirancy and hold me accountable as well. So,
thank you, Brent. Next is Dee Dee. And you can just bring it to her and you can stand in place, Dee Dee.
Well, it's with great gratitude that I am here. I first came to FCM after I retired and realized that this was the beginning of the end of my life, the final stage, and felt impermanence. And I realized I needed to make not only the most of each day, but each moment. And I had been traveling in a good direction, but almost like a circumlocution, that's what it is. And I realized I needed a more direct path and found that the 3 jewels, the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, really worked for me. And was really very, very grateful for that. And I'm at a point where I realize I need to go deeper. And this is a wonderful opportunity for deepening my practice. And I am very grateful to have a Sangha to support me as I work on following the 14 mindfulness trainings and aspiring to be one of the ones in the boat with equanimity and loving kindness and compassion. And I also feel like this is so serendipitous that this is happening today on the day of Vesak. Mm-hmm. And so my desire, which is I'm sure for all of us, is that the Buddha nature continue to awaken in all of us. And thank you all for your support.
Thank you. Lydia? Where's Lydia? Lydia's in the back.
Hi, I'm Lydia Anderson. I am very grateful for this Sangha and everything it's done for me. So this has put me on the path to actually go into OI. I want to live the 14 mindfulness trainings. I want to make sure that the Sangha continues because it's given so much to me. And I think the community in Tampa Bay and in the world needs places like this. So I really hope that you support me in my efforts to do this. Thank you.
Nicholas.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you in advance for your support of my aspirancy. I've been coming to FCM for nearly 4 years now, and one of the things that has kept me most inspired is not just the teachings on Sundays or readings assigned or even individual or group meditation practices. It's the lived examples by other people in this community, whether that be people in the OI, Brian, David, or Fred, or just friends along the path. I think that, order of interbeing, I could just read the book Interbeing and then move on, but that's not how one develops on the path. A commitment to other people, not letting ego be the driver, and supporting this community that has supported me and others is the right next step for me. And hopefully it'll be the right next step for other people whose lives I touch. So, thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas. Rosie? She's in the back.
Hi, my name is Rosie, and I was born in Nepal, the birthplace of Buddha, and like any other Nepali, grew up to be very proud of that fact. But however, I had no knowledge about the Buddhist teaching and the practicality of the teaching, and although I went to a lot of Buddhist temples all around wherever I found it. And when I came to FCM, I get to learn about Buddhist teaching, the Buddha Dharma, and I was almost like a kid in a candy shop. I was just taking any intensive that I could take. My time could permit for any intensives or all the classes and all the retreat that's been offered out here. And this has been very transformational for me in my own relationship with my children, with my husband, with my in-laws, and also it has been created a lot of joy in myself, the joy that comes out without reason and peace. And now I feel like I'm finally ready to take a next step to train myself in this OI training, which is very high standards. Like it's been said before, it's easy to read the book and go move on, but to hold yourself accountable. And I not only trust myself, I trust my teacher, I trust this Sangha to hold me accountable and to help me in this path, so that I can be of benefit for this community and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosie. There is another woman, Peggy Wallace, who I think many of you know. She was unfortunately out of town, but she will get her chance to speak to the Sangha. And just before we end this, Danny, I know you joined sort of the aspirant team midway. Did you ever get a chance to publicly stand up? This is well, this is it.
I wasn't exactly prepared. My name is Danny. I joined OI a year ago. The Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, they saved me. They saved me in so many ways. So I love the Sangha as family. As absolute family. I love every single one of you to the bottom of my heart. So this is just natural for me to take the 14, to support the Sangha, to do what I can to proliferate these teachings, these beautiful teachings that Fred brings to us that the Buddha started all those years ago. So that is my aspiration, to heal my own suffering, but to also heal the suffering of other beings and to support this beautiful community in whatever way I possibly can. And I ask for your support in holding me accountable, keeping me in line, keeping me straight. Thank you, my beautiful Sangha.
So thank you, aspirants. So today is the celebration of the birth of the Buddha. For those of you who pay attention to dates, may go, what is May 18th? I never heard that would be celebration. Well, we're a little off. But actually, as Buddhism has developed, some of the Buddhist countries have stuck to the original tradition of the lunar calendar. Anybody knows about the lunar calendar? It is different than the solar calendar because it goes by the full moons and the new moons, and so it always changes. But a number of the Buddhist countries changed to the solar calendar, and so they celebrate the Buddha's birth on like May 8th every year. So for scheduling reasons, we're doing it on the 18th. But my sense is the Buddha is wise enough to accept and understand. He won't take this personally. So in talking about the birth of the Buddha and why that's important, I want to talk about it really on two levels. One is the historical level, and one is the ahistorical level. Sort of the manifest Buddha and the true Buddha. And we want to acknowledge the significance of both of them. Yeah, so in terms of the historical Buddha, and again, it's so important to us as Buddhists because here we are on Nebraska Avenue, the corner of Lambright, in Tampa, Florida. And why are we here? Well, we're here because of the Buddha. And we're here because the Buddha appeared in this world over 2,600 years ago in an area that's now part of southern Nepal, in the Terai. And it's quite amazing that it was because of his birth and everything that happened afterwards and everything that has continued for 2,600 years that somehow there's a Florida community of mindfulness based on the teachings and practices of the Buddha Dharma here on Nebraska Avenue, you see? And we may think, oh, we're just here doing what we're doing, but we wouldn't be here without all our ancestors, all the teachers and masters who've come before us, and they go back to this one human being. So it's quite significant to see the power of a human being to really transform and change things. So historically, we do know that the Buddha was, for those of you who wonder about these things, the Buddha was an historical person, because, what has happened, of course, in centuries and centuries and centuries is oftentimes the original humaneness, the factual stories of a founding teacher, awakened person, especially thousands of years ago, gets embroiled with all kinds of extraordinary events. Right? They take on almost mythological idea, and the Buddha also did this. I mean, he didn't do it, but it became that way afterwards. But the Buddha, we know, was an historical person. And the way we know that is not just through that the tradition has been preserved, but that the British Archaeological Society, when they controlled that whole area, their archaeology went looking for these things called the Ashoka Pillars. There was this great Mauryan emperor, Ashoka, who lived several centuries after the Buddha, who was a very strong Buddhist, and this is when the traditions were still alive, and the little monasteries or bigger monasteries had grown up in all these places, and so he went to all these places where and there are major events in a Buddha's life. Obviously, where they're born is a major event. Where they came to enlightenment is a major event. Where they first taught is a major event. Where they died or entered parinirvana is a major event. And so there are numerous events, many, many, many events in the life of the Buddha that were still remembered and commemorated because there were monasteries there in Ashoka's time. And he established all these pillars, these steles, right? And on them he wrote. This is da-da-da-da, this is where the Buddha da-da-da-da-da-da. And over time, what do you think happened? They get covered over, right? They get covered over by dirt, by sand, people build around them. So the Archaeological Society, based on historical accounts, went and found them all, right? So for those people who don't believe stories, there was actual proof. So we know that the Buddha was an historical person. We know that he lived approximately 2,600 years ago. And we know something about his life, the general outlines of his life as a human being. But why is that so important? You see, what was so dramatic about his life that he still remembered today, right? And that still 2,600 years, those of us here in the West are able to receive these wonderful teachings and practices that have been preserved 2,600 years in all these living traditions in Asia. What is significant about the birth of a Buddha? There are many things that I could say, but I think the main thing for us is, we are human beings. And as human beings, we all want to be happy. We don't want to suffer. Would everybody agree that's sort of a general, if people thought about it, they go, yeah, that's right. I'd want to be happy. I don't want to suffer. If we said, well, would you like all your family, all your friends, all your people, would you like them all to be happy and not suffer? And we'd all say what? Well, of course. And if we said to the people, when they're in their good mind, would we like to live in a world where people got along with one another? Would we like to live in a world where there was peace and people were safe? Would we like to live in a world where the basic needs of all human beings were taken care of, right? People could live in peace, people could have enough food, shelter, clothing, children could grow up, right? Is there anybody who would argue with that world? No, that is the world we all want, you see. And that is the world that human beings, left to their own devices, based on their experience, based on the way they see the world, have been playing with for thousands of years, coming up with all kinds of ideas to make that happen. Is that true? So after these 2,600 years, do we have that? Do we have that? No. Right. Because, and again, I won't go into it too much, but because of well, let's go into the Buddha. So the Buddha saw the same thing. He grew up in a family. We don't need to go into the story of his life, but let's just say he grew up in a family, and he had lots of opportunities. And some people make him out to be like royalty, but it was a small little Republican community, not Republican like Democrat Republican, but more like a republic, because actually they did have those former governments, but it was a small little principality, and his father probably was the head chief or king, but it wasn't like an empire. And he was and Siddhartha, you've heard the word, with his son. And as he grew up, he had all the advantages, and young and youthful, and he got married and had a child. He began to see that there was suffering in human beings. And he began to see that underneath all the good times, right, all the good times that people were having, he saw there was the other side, right? And he wondered, One, is there another way? Is there a way that human beings can really live in a mind that is truly happy and free and open, spacious, calm? You know, I mean, that only has good qualities to it, all the wholesome qualities. Is that possible for human beings? Is it possible for people to end their suffering, especially their self-created suffering? I mean, he couldn't end sickness, he couldn't end death, he couldn't end aging, right? He couldn't end those things. That's just the given of life. But he did see that most what human beings suffer from is self-created. We create it for ourselves, and we create it for the other people in the world. Right? He saw that there was a whole realm of human suffering, of the lack of human happiness, that was within the hands of human beings to change. Okay? But there was one problem. Nobody knew how to do it. Right? Nobody knew how to do it. At least within his universe of people who were enjoying life, you know, in the city-state, right? They were all too busy what? Partying, going work in the fields, getting ahead, you know, raising the, you know what I mean? They were all very concerned with just, you know, worldly life, and they weren't really looking at the bigger picture. The only ones who were looking at the bigger picture were the sadhus, you know, the hermits, the ones out in the jungles, you know, the meditators. At that time, what that encountered, what mostly they were doing were ascetic practices, right? So they were living apart from people, they were living apart from society, they were living in great, you know, self-denial. A lot of them, you know, practice all these kind of ascetic practices. And they practice forms of meditation that sort of put them in trance states, sort of like the jhanas. So they were able to go into these deep trance states that gave them great happiness and bliss. And so the Buddha spent 6 years learning from these masters at the time, these meditation masters. And he kind of mastered all their systems, and he felt that none of them resolved the fundamental issue of why do human beings suffer? What is the very nature of the human mind? So these meditators would go into these states where they'd feel great bliss and happiness and, you know, connection with all beings, you know, oceanic kind of. But what he found is when you came down, when you came out of your meditation, they were like everybody else. You see what they weren't? It was a kind of a state-specific state. So he went through all the greatest teachers, he went through all the practices, and at the end of it, he was not satisfied. He hadn't ended. He hadn't realized what he was looking for. So we know at the end he left all that. I won't tell the whole story, but eventually he was left on his own. And he finally just, he's meditating under the Bodhi tree, he just looked deeply into his own mind. Because if the source of suffering is essentially in our minds, then the answer must be where? In our minds. I mean, it can't be anywhere else. When he realized the source of human suffering is their own mind. And he, you know, we can talk about this when we celebrate his Enlightenment Day. But when he came to his great enlightenment, right? So we might say we're here physically because this physical Buddha, Gautama, took birth, right? He had a mother, Maya, you know. But because he took physical birth. But his real birth was his enlightenment. In the same way, we have our physical body, don't we? Right? And this physical body was given to us by our who? By our mothers and fathers. We didn't make it ourselves. They created our physical body, and they gave us physical life. Right? They took care of us. Our mothers nurtured us for 9 months inside. Out we came out. They took care of us. They made sure we stayed alive. They nurtured us, right? But our parents did not know the answers to why human beings suffer. Right? Because they suffered. They couldn't do it. So, the Buddha, as a human being, having been born in this world, now he's 29, when he came to his full enlightenment, that was his real birth. Okay? At that moment, he was born. We could say reborn, not physically, reborn mentally. Right? And that's why the beginning of Buddhism, which is most important, is not his physical birth, which we are grateful for, because without his physical birth, he could have never been around for 29 years and come to all the insights that he came to. But in his 29th year, on his own, under the Bodhi tree, and again, Ashoka left a pillar there, and you can go to Bodh Gaya in India, like the same way you can go to Lumbini, and you can go to Kapilavastu, and you can go to Sarnath, where he taught. You can go to all these places and visit them. The Buddha had his great enlightenment. His second birth, his first birth was in his physical body. But in his enlightenment, he realized the truth of who and what he was. Right? That he was not, because let me just say, the physical body is subject to what? Sickness, old age, and death. It has a beginning, it has an end. Right? And during the whole course of that life, it's subject to all kinds of miseries and happinesses and joys and pleasures. All right? I mean, it's all, the full range of human experience. But in that enlightenment, in his own mind, he realized the truth of who he really was. We say he realized his true nature. We say he realized his Buddha nature. Right? That was beyond birth and death. Right? Beyond any definition or characteristic. Beyond, there's no suffering in the true mind, or natural mind. Plus, because it is the mind of all beings, it is what connects us to all beings. So what he realized when the whole structure of himself as Siddhartha was totally blown open, and he experienced himself as this kind of transcendental being connected with all being, and all the wholesome qualities, awakened qualities of his own mind manifested, right? He got a new name, which was Shakyamuni Buddha, which means the enlightened one of the Shakyas, which was his family name. Now, that would have been great, right? And we could be here worshiping that man for his great enlightenment and the teachings he left, right? As many people do worship and pray to and follow the ethical, moral principles of their teacher, which the Buddha did. But most importantly, most importantly, in the Buddha's enlightenment, he said, wonder of wonders. within this mortal frame contains the whole universe. Right? And that this Buddha mind, this true mind, is the mind of all beings. It is the fundamental mind of all beings that they are endowed with right now. I mean, that's quite something. Right? He said, all of us. That means everybody sitting in this room, everybody listening online, even though we identify with all our thoughts and our feelings and our history and where we were born and all our stories and narratives, that is all coverings for our true nature, which is here. It's nowhere else. And so that message that came out of his realization is quite revolutionary, isn't it? Because many people think, like the ascetics, which he was following in those days, they believed the path, was to deny the body. You see, the body was in the way. So you had to do these ascetic practices, and cause the body to suffering as a way to suffer from it. And that was the way to become enlightened, right? Or else this whole other meditative sect were all into doing these kind of trance yogas, which produce these states, right? In other words, there was something you had to really do to get to this place. And the Buddha said, no. It's already here. It is our birthright. All we need to do is uncover it. Any questions about this? This is radical. Because most people think there's something I got to get. I got to get to heaven, right? Working hard. It's a long journey, but I'll get there. Got to get to nirvana. It's a long journey, but I'm going to get there. Right? You see, there's some place to go. The Buddha said there's no place to go. It's already here. The practice is uncovering what's already here. All goodness is already here. Everything you seek, the happiness you think, is already here. You just have to uncover it. It's a very different way of working. So it's a very radical kind of message. But not easily understood because we don't, again, in this world, we don't, so just to finish that and then take a question. So the Buddha said, it's because we don't understand who and what we really are. We don't see ourselves as these, fundamentally whole. See, if we see ourselves as broken, right? Many people see themselves as broken, then they have to what? Then they have a journey of what? Yeah, putting themselves back together, fixing. Right? You see? I'm broken, I got to fix myself. Or self-improvement. I got to just keep improving myself to get better. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but fundamentally, the Buddha says, no, you're already whole and complete. That open-heartedness, that love, that connection with other beings is already here. That is the way things are. We just the work is to uncover it. So why do human beings, see, again, coming back to where we started, why is this so radical, so important? Because left to our own devices, we would never figure that out. Right? We would be endlessly what? What? Searching, or just keep working what we're doing harder. Right? I was told that if I got a good job and made some money and had a house and had a family, I'd be happy. Uh-oh. It's not really working. I mean, there's happiness there, but there's still a lot of problems and suffering. I've got to, is there something wrong with me? I got to work harder. Right? You see? I just got to, it's whatever strategies that we think we've made, I got to work harder to change the world. Right? Because the world's a source of suffering. So I got to work harder and harder to change the world and change the people in the world. I got to work harder and harder, right? And then we keep working harder and harder, and then what happens? Still suffering, and the world doesn't work out the way I thought it would. Because I think the problem's out there. The problem is in the minds of human beings. When human beings know that they are whole and complete, they don't need things to make them better. When human beings understand that all human beings are connected, all of us want to be happy, all of us, we give up doing harm, naturally, right? Does anybody here would like their home to be bombed? I'm just want to tell you, anybody here would like their home to be bombed? No. Right? And yet what? We forget that the people we're bombing are just like us. They're human beings. You know what I'm saying? It's when you know that, all those kinds of harming activities, both as an individual or as a country, and the whole world's participating in this, can change. So this is very important. And again, so in our tradition we say, when a Buddha appears in the world, it's special. Because they bring us a message through their own awakening. So it's not like the Buddha, comes down from above and tells us how to be, right? He didn't come out of the sky, did he? He manifested as a human being, right? And he lived a very human life. And he had his great awakening in his own 29-year-old body. And his message was, if I can do it, you can do it. And so for 29 years, almost 30 years, he taught. Right? So we were fortunate that his teaching, went on for decades. Right? Decades and decades he taught, and he had many, 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 many disciples, and he had a core of disciples. We've lost this ability to memorize. Have you noticed that? In the we call people with photographic memories like really special. Well, in the past, that's how everybody did it. They just memorized. So they had incredible capacities to remember. So there were lots and lots of people present at all the Buddha's talks, and they memorized his teachings. So they were preserved. And again, we are very fortunate that for 2,600 years, teachers and masters have continued to transmit these teachings, but not only transmit them like books or philosophy or psychology, they've actually practiced in the same way the Buddha practiced. And essentially, he certainly taught an ethical way of living and behaving and relating, He also taught a path of meditation, so that each of us can go through the same experiment that he did with our own minds, right? That we can realize I cannot change sickness, old age, and death for myself or anyone else. That's just the nature of this life, right? But I can change my mind. I can awaken all the best qualities that lay in my mind already. I just have to awaken them. And so that's why, again, on the Buddha's birthday, we acknowledge the historical Buddha and his enlightenment, and the fact that that has been carried forward for 2,600 years, so it ends up here on Nebraska Avenue in Tampa, right? We can acknowledge that historical. But really, at the same time, we want to acknowledge there has been transmission of his awakened mind. And that for generation after generation after generation, it has been passed down from teachers to student, right? Guru to Chela, and that's very powerful. And we're very fortunate that that's still alive, and that we still have great awakened beings in this world to show us the way. Because again, left to our own device, we're good people. I mean, all of you are good people, right? And you all want, you'd love to not to suffer. And I imagine everybody here tried many things. What do we try in America? We try what? Exercise. We exercise. Okay, get a good body, healthy. What else do we do? What? Yeah, we get our food act together. What else do we do? What? We work, but well, I'm thinking in terms of change. We go to therapy, right? We go to therapy. Because why? What? Because we suffer, and we want to change. We want to be happy, so we go lots of therapy. And when we're not in therapy, what do? We read self-improvement books, right? Is that true? And some of us graduate on from the therapeutic world, we graduate on to the spiritual world. And what do? We love to read spiritual books. Listen to spiritual podcasts, right? Listen to YouTube, right? Yeah. Because why? Because we want to end our suffering. Because we want to become the best human being we can be. Because we want in our relationships to people to be open and loving and caring and act wisely, intelligently in this world, right? I mean, we most agree we'd like to? Yeah, that's the way we want. Yeah. So, but again, left to our devices and the devices of ordinary other people, all we can do is make things a little better, right? Make things a little better. It is rare that a being of the stature of a Buddha, with the profound enlightenment of a Buddha, appears in this world, right? And teaches. They say there are many enlightened people, who have their own enlightenment, and they just keep it to themselves, or a few people. The Buddha didn't. He widely taught all beings. Everybody came here. He wandered about, what's now southern Nepal and northern India. He wandered about just teaching. Teaching. Anybody. Rich, poor, kings, peasants, sweepers, right? Yeah. So that was quite an extraordinary example. He lived at a time when the caste system was very strong, the caste system. And he opened his Sangha to all castes. Very radical. He did that. Didn't make a big deal about it, he just opened it up. He opened up his monastic order to women. Very radical at the time. So questions. We have 10 minutes before the kids join us, and we do our little ceremonial thing. And I'll talk about that when the kids come in. Any questions about anything that was said today? Yes. Just hold. So there are a lot of people online. So, okay. Yeah, no, he's going to bring you up. Okay.
My question is,
and your name is what?
I'm Deepa.
Deepa, yes, Deepa.
And my question is to uncover the Buddha nature, or our true nature. So the meditation is the only way?
No, it's not the only way, but it's a good way.
So there are other ways to get
I would say, you can define meditation like what we do here this is formal meditation, right? And there are all kinds, in Buddhism, there are all kinds of meditations. But they're basically two kinds. One kind is the kind of meditation that's called single-minded concentration or samatha. These are all the meditations where you focus on something to quiet and stabilize your mind. Like we focus on the body, the breath, you can focus on a visualization, a mantra, you can focus on a Buddha, you know what I mean, externally. So there are many, many, many things that you could focus on, but the purpose is to develop a mind that's stable, calm, and can concentrate. Okay? And that produces lots of good results, if you've ever tried that, right? But Deepa could still do that. So, yeah, you got to head north. Don't worry, you're not disturbing us. That's fine. Right? Now, again, can you be concentrated during your daily life? Yes. One can change. I mean, today we learned, one can sit and one can walk with mindful concentration. One can wash the dishes, one can do one's work, one can talk to people, right? No distraction, 100% present, just like in meditation. So one can learn to interact in the world in a very meditative, concentrated way. Okay? It's just sort of easier to have times where you can, not have all the going on, but you can meditate anywhere because it's a mind state. Okay. Now the second kind of meditation is called insight meditation. This is what the Buddha was doing, which is like, who am I? Where is the real me? I just heard this talk by Fred. He says, the Buddha said there's a Buddha nature inside me, there's a true nature. Where is it? I don't feel it. Right? So to do that, you've got to look into your mind. That's another kind of meditation. And you can do that other times. But just meditation, which is kind of you put everything down, especially in this busy life, so many things going on, to be able to come to a time where you just, nothing going on, you can just focus formally, is very helpful. I mean, does that answer your question, Deepa? Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Other questions about what we've talked about today? Don't be shy. Online, they can just... But anybody have a question about what was said? This means you all 100% buy into it, or anybody going, not sure about this? Yes.
Yeah, hi. I was just wondering if there's any benefits of the jhana states at all? Like, should we try to avoid them if they come, or
what?
Should we try to avoid them, or like?
It's interesting. Since the time of the Buddha, there's been 2,600 plus years of history. Buddhism has spread, all throughout Asia. Now it's spreading, into Western countries, and that, takes on many forms. So there, in some traditions, they do practice them, but within the Buddhist context. They do practice, those kinds of meditative concentrations because there are insights that do come from them. But, what? Jhanas. So it just really refers to kind of deep meditative states. There are various kinds. But again, they are kinds of things that you experience if you're a deeply profound meditator, and usually on long retreats. Yeah, and you can, it's, if you've always lived on the earth, and you think what goes on here in the world is all there is, right? Having 3 or 4 days traveling in deep space, right? And seeing endless planets and, systems could change your perspective on what goes on down here, right? So having experiences like that can certainly change your perspective. But what the Buddha found was that the jhanas were states. Well, enlightenment is not a state. Like the light is turned on. It doesn't mean in these other insight states the light can't get turned on temporarily. Right? But basically we want the light turned on. Right? Because we want to live what? I mean, most of us here, I mean, do we have any people who live in caves or in hermitages or anybody here like that? Where do we live? In the world. And what do we deal with every day? Traffic. What do we deal with every day? Stuff. People, things to do, right? Right. I mean, this is our life. We're lay people. So, you know, we want a practice that we can practice in our real life, that we can end our own suffering, or we can create happiness and well-being for ourselves and others in our life, right? Yeah, I mean, that's how we do it on Nebraska Avenue. So, the kids are coming here? Okay, so why don't we bring the kids in, and I'll say a little something about the ceremony, that they've been up to something. Come on in, kids. Keep coming. Keep coming. Yeah, you're doing great. Come. Come on. Yeah. Oh, come on. You keep coming. Keep coming. Keep coming. You did it. Okay, come on, guys. Everybody in the back, keep coming. Maybe spread out a little bit, so everybody room. Da, da, da. All right, what do we have here, Rosie?
Our children are going to talk about what they did today. So, Armin?
What we learned today is we learned about what Buddha, what was it called again? We learned about what the Chi Buddha settled under, and how his life was before he left his home, and yeah.
Good job. Now, come on.
We learned
Just a little louder.
about what the story about Buddha was and how he helped other people.
How to help other people. Excellent.
Okay. So they heard this, you want to say something? Yeah, they they listened to the story of Buddha's birth, and they sang some songs with Rick, and they made the craft of this lantern, right? Yes. Yeah. Only the orange is outside. That was the best part? Okay. Thank you.
Hey, so kids, you know what? Turn around. You know what this is? Take a guess. Have you ever seen anything like that before? What's your name? What's your name? You. Yeah. What's your name? What? Shivarch. Shivansh. Shivant. Hey. Oh, how wonderful. What a great name. And so what is this? Statue, but what kind of Buddha? Is it a statue like the Buddha up there? Or is this different? He's standing, but you know what it's really a statue of? The baby Buddha. Did you know that? Now, we don't know if it's true, but you know what people said? That when he came out of his mother's, right? Came out of his mother, guess what? He walked. He stood up and walked. Pretty incredible for a baby, eh? And so, and he walked, and then he pointed up and he pointed down, and he sort of said, he sort of announced he's the Buddha, right? So that's a kind of representative of the baby Buddha, right? And that's what? And so what we're going to do in a few minutes, and you kids can be first and then all the adults, see, these are flowers, right? And the water is like sweet-scented water, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to, you see these ladles, right? Each of us are going to take a ladle and we're going to bathe the Buddha, right? Like you know how you bathe, why do you bathe babies? You know why? Why do you bathe babies? To get them clean, right? So we're kind of bathing the Buddha but you know what we're doing at the same time? Secretly? Inside our mind, we're bathing our mind and saying, may I be free of all negative things, bad things, right? Like anger and fear, and, things like that. You want to wash your mind of all that, right? Right? Yeah. So you can say that as you're washing. Make a little, kind of like a little prayer. May I be free of all my bad qualities. May my mind only have good qualities. So what's a good quality? Well, happiness. Great. Anybody else know a good quality that they'd like in their minds? Oop. How about excitement? That's an interesting one. Yeah, that's a good one. Anything else? What are you thinking? Positive. Positive thoughts? Yeah. Kindness. Ooh, where'd you learn that? Kindness. Anybody else? Loving? Caring, especially with who? Our brothers and sisters, our schoolmates. Some of them give us a little hard time sometimes. Is it easy to have kind thoughts about them? No, but that's what we want to, be nice to be able to, right? Yeah, it would be nice. So we make that wish in our mind, okay, when we're cleaning the Buddha, washing the Buddha. And adults, same thing. Okay, we're all going to come up here, and you have a little more, more about this, the kids. But when you're washing the Buddha, not only are we offering, our gratitude to the Buddha, but we're also thinking, let me wash my mind of all its impurities, so I can be like a Buddha. So, what are we doing now?
So what we'd like to do now is have the children give their lanterns to Brent. He's going to tie them out on the altar, and then we'd like to invite the families of the children to line up with them here in the center aisle. Does anybody belong to these children? Just take one of them. Just line up right here, and we're going to bathe the Buddha. So come here with your mom and dad. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Put your lanterns. You want to give your lantern to Brent? And then. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're all going to have an opportunity to bathe the baby Buddha in rose water and rose petals. And as Fred says, this is an opportunity to purify the Buddha on the outside and purify our minds on the inside. So when you come up, you're invited to first bow to the baby Buddha. Take one of the ladles. ladle the rose water on the Buddha's head. You can put the ladle back. And then you can go out this way, because most of your shoes are in. So go out and get your shoes, and then you can go outside. We'll have refreshments, and I'll tell each row when they can come forward. Okay? All right, Bill?
Are we ready?
We're good? Yes, we're ready.
Take your turn. So you can each on one side, you each can have your own ladle. And make a good thought. Oh, good. That's good. Excellent. Don't forget his back. Good motion. Thank you.
Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि संघं शरणं गच्छामि बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि संघं शरणं गच्छामि बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि संघं शरणं गच्छामि बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि संघं शरणं गच्छामि बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि संघं शरणं गच्छामि बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि
शरणं
Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham शरणं गच्छामि बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि संघं शरणं गच्छामि बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि संघं शरणं गच्छामि बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि संघं शरणं गच्छामि बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि संघं शरणं गच्छामि बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि संघं शरणं गच्छामि gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Buddham saranam gacchami.